whenever.
Welcome to episode 117 of the Beefy Boys Breakdown. We're going over the prelims right now of UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Spivac. This card was originally supposed to take place in Korea, and you'll see a lot of the East Asian fighters on this card, which is dope, as well as the contestants from, Road to UFC Asia.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of new faces. This wasn't a card with a lot of really familiar names, I would feel. It's probably safe to say. But obviously, Derrick Lewis, main card. We all know UFC fans very familiar with that name and face. Serghei Spivac, up and coming, rising heavyweight challenger, contender. Also, man, good night for Bellator. Made it to CBS. That had the Fedor versus Ryan Bader, as well as that middleweight champ. Was it Eblin? That guy's a dog. But good
Honestly,
night for Bellator.
I mean, me and you were talking about it beforehand, but like the UFC card paled in comparison to the Bellator card.
Yeah. Also, Bellator, 3-fight main card on CBS, very palatable. I think it's in an hour and a half time slot. 2 title fights, so 2 out of the 3 fights were title fights. High level. Names and face we recognized, and some that we didn't. As far as I'm not the biggest Bellator guy. Like, I'm not trying to be on my high. I'm sorry, I got a scratchy throat. But yeah, no, I'm trying to be like on my MMA high horse over here. I don't watch a ton of Bellator, but I thoroughly enjoyed the card, and I was kind of happy for their opportunity to kind of break through to a larger audience on CBS. Because I always talk about this whenever like the UFC's on ABC, like somewhere out there, some kid, with maybe some periphery interest in UFC, but parents maybe can't afford the or MMA in general, but parents can't afford the pay-per-views, whatever the case may be. And just for that creates a whole new generation of fans.
No doubt, man. No doubt. But I think for the UFC and for a lot of people here in America wondering why it's Road to UFC or UFC Road to UFC Asia. My God, I can't say that title. Wondering why it's UFC Fight Night Korea, as we would have called it originally, was because it was supposed to be in Korea, and that's why the time slot was so weird. They literally weren't even trying to really compete with Bellator, if you think about it. They were letting Bellator go first so that they could go after. And as it turns out, Chan Sung Jung gets hurt, and they moved the whole card. I thought that was a very interesting decision to move every single fighters for one fight.
Well, yeah, I'll be real. I didn't know that whole backstory. I thought the reason had to be something more than that.
No, it's that Chan Sung Jung pulled out, and they're like, we're not going to do a UFC Korea card if our biggest Korean draw can't fight. Which, I get business-wise, but also, you guys...
But there's a lot of other fighters on there that I feel like the Korean fans would have paid to see in person. Hell, I would have paid to see him in person. Plus all the Japanese fighters.
That's what my problem really was with it, was that, like, you had the Iron Turtle, you had Jung Young Park, you had... Dooho Choi. You had Tatsuro Taira. Like, you had plenty of guys that would have made it a good, Asian card still.
Let's not sell the Asian fans short. Like, they don't know who the fuck Derrick Lewis is. You know what I'm saying? They'd be probably, they'd be juiced. You can't be that narrow-minded. Like, they don't know who, like, they wouldn't pay money to watch Derrick Lewis fight. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and he was going to be their co-main, too. So it was like, obviously they already decided, like, and Serghei Spivac's Moldovan or Russian. And, like, obviously if you're in Asia, Russia's right there on top.
Russians would have traveled for sure. You know what I mean? So I don't think they would have had a problem selling up here. Yeah, peculiar. Yeah, peculiar. I don't know how else to say, because it's not like they really stood in to gain any money by moving it to the Apex. It's not like they moved it to T-Mobile. So right. I don't really know. Maybe just like the logistics. I mean, I'm sure it's a pain in the ass to take it over there or that far away, take the show that far away. So maybe just obviously logistically, it's way easier to do it at the Apex. But yeah, interesting decision. Feel bad for the Korean fans. But also, debut of Laura Sanko. We've seen her on the Dana White Contender Series, Mike. She does a great job ringside, but first night at the actual commentators table for an actual UFC card. Happy for her, more than qualified. Thought she did a great job, work out the kinks of the chemistry and the timing a little bit, but it was her first time. I'm stoked for her. I thought it was, a great addition, to the broadcast.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask you, what did you think of her overall as a commentator? Did you like her? Did you not like her? I liked her, just overall assessment. I liked Lorisenko's commentary, but I felt like sometimes she didn't know what to say and she was forcing herself to talk. And you don't always have to do that.
Well, you know where I'm going to place a lot of the blame, at least like how I kind of took it all in. Every time she had kind of a clunky moment or an awkward moment, I feel like, and I forget the British guy's name that does like one card a year. No,
oh no, he's not Brendan Fitzgerald.
No,
that's
no. There was the other guy. It was
John something.
Yeah, he does like 2 cards a year when they're like in London or whatever. That guy, like, I put a lot of the blame on him. Her and Bisping were vibing great, and I really enjoyed their kind of back and forth. And every time there was a clunky moment, it was like that third guy, the British guy. Forgive me, like I said, he does like 2 cards a year. So I'm like, Lorisenko does more commentary than that fucking joker does.
Right.
Contender Series. So like, I feel like every time there was a clunky kind of moment, it had to do with their kind of vibe and interface. And so I'm putting the blame on homeboy. I got Laura's back.
I like that. I think that's a good take, and I think he is always out of rhythm. Like, he's good with Bisping because they have their little British jokes they make back and forth, and like they can kind of get on a tip that way. It's like the same thing with him and like you'd never have him and Fitzgerald, so you don't have to worry about stuff like that. But like John, is it Goodson or something like that? But he doesn't even commentate with like usually even DC or like usually even Rogan. Like he gets like a Felder and a Bisping or like a Dominic Cruz and a Bisping where like he gets put into a corner usually. And it felt like like this time because it was Lorisenko, he was like, I don't know, he stood out in a bad way.
In a bad way, yeah. Like I found most of my takeaways as far as like my opinions on the broadcast had way more to do with him than they did Lorisenko, which kind of sucks. I feel you're not going to put it on the A squad right away, like, but I feel like if it was, say that was Felder or Anik instead of that guy, I mean, it would have gone over a million times smoother, I feel. But, you know, onto these fights, because jerking the curtain, which also, I mean, we're just going to nitpick, just call this the Beefy boy, you know, nagging breakdown. But, like, seriously, we're going to nitpick. Why the fuck did they have Tatsuro Taira jerking the curtain, man? There was like
one
3
jerking the
fights
curtain
I was looking forward to. He was one of them, and they got him like on the bottom of the prelims. And he's allegedly a star they're trying to build.
So like,
I didn't agree with that.
I think with him jerking the curtain was completely stupid. It made no sense at all. Like the next guys that like Tallulah could have easily opened the card, and or like, but Iron Turtle's a good name too. Like why would he be the next guy up to like open the card? Like. Really, it should have been.
They had the road to UFC guys.
I know, because no one knows them except. And if you're in Korea, sure, don't do that. But no, we don't know them here. And they didn't even get UFC logos on their gloves. I don't know if you noticed that. None of the road to UFC guys got a UFC logo on their gloves because they're not in it yet.
Yes, so like literally not UFC caliber yet.
Right. I'm going to grab a lighter, but if you want to introduce the odds on this, because that was my final point, was that these odds are also trash. Like, to open the card with a guy that's minus 1250 sucks.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'll touch on that. Grab your lighter. And, so we got Tatsuro Taira, who I consider essentially like a phenom. I mean, a very highly touted prospect. A guy I'm, like, personally very high on. Big fan of his. 12-0, undefeated. Minus 1250 favorite. In the flyweight division, taking on Jesus Aguilar, plus 800. I'll be real, I don't know a ton about Jesus Aguilar. Might have been his debut, I think it was. But I'm stoked that they're kind of I was just saying how I kind of stopped myself because I was about to say I'm stoked that the UFC is kind of building out this flyweight division, but then I'm like, but are we though? Because we give
are they?
800 matchup, and we're having to jerk the curtain. So, like, is that really promoting it, or is that not like the exact opposite? You tell me. But pretty much, this is going to be like a stroke fest for Taira. I mean, I'm a big Taira guy. Like, even before this fight, after this fight, I think he's super important to the bigger picture of the division. Like this new wave of flyweights, him, Makayev. Mainly him and Makayev, but like I really like that, you know, just the division's getting some juice after watching a quadrilogy at the top end. Like we need life more than ever, and I think these guys are going to bring it. You know,
I think there's some good life there. I think there's some good life there at the very top of 125. But to your point, we need this young life to be there because a lot of these guys that are like giving us those opportunities, like there's 3 of them I would say, right? Like Perez. You could argue who's the oh God, what's his name? I have it right here.
Car France, maybe?
No. It's
Pantoja?
Pantoja and Nicolau. Pantoja, Nicolau, and Perez all kind of have it like, they're bringing a little bit to the division there, but they're all also kind of middle of their career. You know what I mean? So like we need these guys that are brand new.
None of those names, no, and none of those guys forget. Like I'm not saying their in octagon performance isn't exciting. None of their narratives are exciting. Their brands are exciting, and you can either roll your eyes and hate that that's part of the sport, but we can't deny that it is part of the sport. Like none of them are out there building fights, selling fights, entertaining us. Great fighters, skill wise, but I mean they're not out here. And it happens in other sports too, right? Like you'll say, like you'll hear in other sports they'll use the phrase "put asses in the seats," talk about jersey sales numbers, same shit. And I don't know. That's what strikes me about these younger guys, the Tairas of the world, the Makayevs. I feel like they're marketable. They're just more exciting, and I don't know. Those other guys at the top of the division have done a poor job of. Besides Carl France, I think Carl France is like marketable, and he does some content on YouTube and stuff. But like the rest of these guys, man, are just like they don't do a good job of like bringing juice to the division.
That's exactly right, man. And like the only guy right now that has a good story that's marketable at 125 is Pantoja. Because Moreno has a loss to him, and Moreno now is clearly the belt holder. Nicolau could make that run. Perez needs to put together 2 wins, and the UFC is going to force feed me Brandon Royval, and that's the state of 125 right now.
What about Car France though? He's coming off the interim title loss. I mean, I feel like he's
got to get one. He's got to get one back. I feel like, and had Figueiredo not moved weight classes, Figueiredo Car France have been fun because they're like 7 inches apart in height. And their size is so different, but it would have been a good fight. Now, that being said, I think for Kai Car France, I'd say make Pantoja fight him, but Pantoja looks so...
Or Nicolau.
Right, Pantoja looks so good in his last outing that I think you kind of let him go ahead and get the next shot and let Car France try to get a win against... Mm-hmm, exactly, and the story's easy to sell, and at 125, like the UFC is clamoring for a story to sell instead of having to sell the fight itself because they're scared of selling 125ers.
Yeah, which is dumb. These guys are awesome, man. But yeah, I mean, Taira coming in with the 8-inch reach advantage, minus 1250 odds. We all knew what was going to happen here. And to his credit, that's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? And for him to perform like a minus 1250 at 23 years of age, 22 years of age. I mean, to not let the pressure get to him, to not play down to the level of his opponent. You know what I'm saying? For him to come out, handle business, dispatch this guy like a plus 800 with the first round mounted triangle to armbar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like the finish itself was just legit.
It was sick. Yeah, he mounted triangle, transition to armbar. Like, and I used the word phenom. I talked about it a little bit in the intro, like when you were away, but like, the guy has phenom written all over him. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just making minus 1250 look good, that's so hard to do. It's so hard to do that. Even against, you can call the opponent can, whatever. Minus 12, we see it all the time. There'll be a big favorite. It'll go to a decision or something like that. You either play it safe or play down to the level of your opponent. For him to not let the pressure get to him, he's now 13-0. I said this division needs juice. I mean, he's got to be knocking at the back door. I mean, you can't tell me that like Tyson Nam and him isn't like a sensible, like he'd be outclassed by Tyson Nam. I refuse to believe.
Oh, I think that'd be a great fight, and honestly, I like Taira there. I think he'd be favorite money.
He would out-grapple the shit out of him. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
And then Taira's still a good striker. Like we never get to see it because it seems like for instance this fight, dude just rushed him. Like Jesus Aguilar literally rushed him for the first 20 seconds. Until he got taken down / went for the guillotine, sat in it for 2 minutes, and then Taira went to work on top. But we saw none of his striking. But from whatever all accounts are, is that he's a fantastic kickboxer.
No, I'm excited on it. Like I said, I'm really stoked. Like, that's why, like, I don't understand. I don't know, like, I'm really not trying to, like, high horse here, but I don't understand the kind of casual take of, like, oh, I don't like watching 125ers fight. To me, I mean, that's a nut hair away from the guys that say, like, I don't like watching women fight. Like, it's just dumb. Like, I don't know. I don't, like, is Jose Altuve less exciting to watch play baseball because he's short? Is Chris Paul less exciting to watch basketball because he's short? Darren Sproles in football. I mean, sports have short guys. They have tall guys. Especially in a sport with weight classes, like I don't see the issue. Like you may not see as many like flash knockouts, but you still see ground and pound knockouts. I feel like you may even see more subs or definitely more entertaining scrambles. You see high output. You know, you barely see like snoozy 125-pound fights. I don't understand the take of I don't like watching.
Here's my problem.
It's just a lame take.
Oh yeah, and here's my other problem with that take is like, so you don't like watching Devontae Smith play football? You don't like watching the best player to ever play soccer play, Lionel Messi? He's probably the smallest guy to ever do it at that level.
Yeah, Barry Sanders. I mean, the examples go on and on. Like I said, especially with the sport with weight classes, I don't see the issue. And like you said, you even get a wide range of body types. Like Taira had an 8-inch reach advantage in a flyweight fight. That's pretty wild. So yeah, I mean, we're both high on Taira. I mean, there's not a whole lot to get into X's and O's. Why Aguilar didn't provide much resistance. He had him in a guillotine for a little bit, but it didn't seem like Taira was really too concerned about it. And then he got out of it and did his thing, you know, styled on him pretty much. We can keep it pushing, I guess, since we got a lot of fights to get to. I could stroke off Taira all day, honestly, but we can.
I think it'd be a good service of us to try. Now, granted, I'm going to say this and then speak out both sides of my neck here because, like, I don't think we should ever cater a show to anyone unless they deserve it. But I wouldn't mind giving these Road to UFC guys some shine because they had to go through. I liked the fact that it was the 8-man tournament, quarterfinal, semifinal, final. I just like the whole way they had Road to UFC set up. Like, imagine if Contender Series was you had 8 guys and you had to fight 3 fights in Contender Series or like 2 fights to get to your fight to debut.
No, I agree. That's one of my biggest problems with the Dana White Contender Series as a viewer is it is very much like one night only, right? Like it's like this matchup is kind of pointless, kind of arbitrary. There's not a lot on it, but if there was a bracket, we would know why these guys are fighting. We would know more of who they are. Okay, I've never seen this guy fight before. That's my biggest. You know, do you ever feel that when you're watching Contender Series? It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like I get the same feeling when I like watch like an Eagle FC card. Like, all right, it's kind of this like one night only. Like, I don't really know who these guys are, but I'm watching them fight. Like, I don't know.
Well, unless it's like Bo Nickel or like
like
there's certain guys sure that they're gonna make them go to the Contender Series, and I'm like, oh, I know this dude. Can't wait to see him dominate his Contender Series fight so that I can see him in the UFC. And that's not always a guarantee, but with dudes like Bo Nickel, and that's a special example. I should put a caveat on that because like the UFC is already putting him with Jamie Pickett. I'm pretty sure on a prelim that has an early prelim that's coming up.
I think it's the John Jones card.
It is like he got on the John Jones card and is on the. He might be the featured fight on the prelims.
I think so.
Which is like, think about that for your first actual fight in the UFC. Like, that's crazy hype.
That's sick. I'm here for it. Well, and we got Jamal Hill, first Dana White Contender Series champion. So, like, I mean, Sugar Sean's number one. It's the wave of Contender Series guys. It's proven to kind of pay off long term. Like
dude, I'll also say, like, imagine the guys from Tough that had to go do the Tough thing, stay on weight for whatever that is, 6 weeks or whatever it is, like, and then make it to the UFC through that. Versus the guys that just go Contender Series, win one fight, boom, you're in. Let's not even worry about it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's wild. That's why, like, honestly, I wish I knew more about this road to UFC. I would have watched it. Like, I'm Mark. I'll watch all this shit. Like,
I think it's only on Fight Pass. I'm almost positive it's only on Fight Pass.
I need to get it. It's like $5. It'd be well worth it.
It sucks that Fight Pass is $10, and then ESPN is $12. Why do I have to buy both? Why would I have an ESPN Plus to watch your pay-per-views? Am I not getting your Fight Pass?
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Like, I'm just wondering, like when you buy Disney Plus, do you have to go buy other Disney services?
Or like it should be like a goddamn punch card. Like, motherfucker, I bought the last 6 pay-per-views in a row. Give me a free Fight Pass subscription.
That would be a great deal. Is if they did like buy this pay-per-view, get Fight Pass free for 1 month because they have a pay-per-view every month. So if you bought every pay-per-view, you get Fight Pass for the year.
I buy the pay-per-views from the same account. They have the data. I bought the
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's in ESPN's log of information of like financial bookkeeping now. Like, they know.
Like, but talking to Dana Scrooger, he wants that $9.99.
Hey, by the way, I watched X Slap. Yikes, or
I'm
whatever it
so
is.
bummed on like
Power
how
Slap.
much they're
Power Slap. That's
promoting
they're
it.
calling it. That's they're
I
calling it.
had to go through my Twitter the other day and like mute like all the slap posts. Like I'm like
Dude.
tired of it. Like I don't care for it. And it's not some high horse thing. I think it is literally like a waste of time. It's just stupid. Like it's just not something I'm into. To me, that'd be like spending my time watching like professional paintball or like some shit. Like it's just
Yeah, it's
like
a
some like
waste.
whack shit. Like paintball probably fun to do. This probably not fun to do. But I'm just saying like it just. But I kind of feel that way about the esports too. Like I'm not trying to watch another motherfucker play video games. I'll be that's not me. That's not like I understand there's a market for it. So maybe there's a market for this. It's not me. That is what I'm getting at.
If
Like
you want to see, if you want to see guaranteed CTE, watch Power Slap.
this is gonna sound like a weirdly phrased take, but I just a genuine like I would much rather watch like women's college basketball, women's college volleyball. Like, I mean, there's so many things I'm gonna turn on before I get to just like watching Power Slap.
Hey man,
Like a
why'd you pick all
sporting.
women's sports?
There's certain sport. Those are some of my like women's volleyball. It's a great sport, and it's on ESPN from times. Like that's what I'm saying. Like and we know the viewership that those sports get,
True.
and I would rather like those are so much higher on my high. Women's track and field for sure. I would rather watch that than Power Slap.
I'm
Like,
with
and
you.
this
Bro,
is not tongue in cheek.
bro, Power Slap feels like you're hurting your brain when you watch it, if that makes sense. Like, you're like, why? Because you literally have the second, like, the thought of, like, you see people get, like, they slap the shit out of each other, right? And you're like, wait, why am I watching this? Like, you start, it's like not a fight. It's like, I don't understand what it is.
Yeah, it reminds me. You know what it reminds me of? The people that like hang themselves from meat hooks.
I, I
It's like a thing, like suspension. Like they'll like literally like hook.
oh,
You, like,
yeah, and they have, like, how long you can hang your skin or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's a thing
what
in
it
England. That's
reminds
a
me
real
of.
sport in
Just
England, yeah.
that's what it reminds me of. Is just like this, like watch it, kind of border like watching some like weird shit. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you're watching some weird shit.
It is
That's
weird.
fine.
It's like some
But
it's like some fetishy type shit. You know what I mean?
how about they like bend over and smack each other on the ass instead?
But
Like,
shit, man, we can keep it pushing to something that was actually good to watch, which was the Iron Turtle
yeah,
back
for
in
sure.
action.
Yeah,
Which
the Iron Turtle, bro.
I missed
Just
the odds on the next two fights, just so you know. So I'll let you introduce those.
we got Tallulah taking on Dennis Tallulah in middleweight fight. Tallulah plus 185, Park minus 215. Um, Park coming off 2-win streak over Holmes and Anders, some decent wins. Tallulah coming off a win over Jamie Pickett. So I mean, both kind of at similar points in their career, I'd say decent matchmaking. Um, I mean, Park, this fight, another first round finish. So, like, from like a a viewability standpoint, this card definitely delivered his finishes. Some good grappling.
I mean, this one
Park,
wasn't as dominant, but damn near.
damn near. Yeah, Park, doesn't have, wasn't in too much trouble. Dispatched of him in the first round, gets the rear naked choke. X's and O's wise, I don't have too much to add to this one. If you do, please, by all means, take it away.
I would just say they're both pretty active on the feet. Park got like his first takedown attempt, or maybe his first two, like kind of lifts for takedowns, or you know what I'm saying, like attempts for takedowns, however you want to say them. Got those stopped, but then got the takedown, and from there it was just like the slow death knell of Dennis Tallulah, just getting beat the fuck up too.
Yeah, Park has a very like methodical style, and like the fight that he did lose, I believe that kind of bit him in the ass. But it's efficient. He doesn't ever like really gas out. It's a 3-round style. Even though this fight ended in the first round, and his last fight ended in the second round, he fights like at a steady pace. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
and it's very like methodical, and which makes it not the most exciting, which makes it not the most marketable. it's interesting because he's on a 3-fight win streak over guys that like whose names we know. I'm not saying they're like the best wins ever, but they're not like can wins. What do you do with a guy like Park? I mean, you think? I mean, three in a row. Do you think he's knocking on the back door of the rankings at middleweight? I mean,
I think he's getting close, honestly, man. Because like, if you take his skill set, he's like kind of like the grindy wrestler that has good power, good ground and pound. I mean,
subs too, good subs.
Yeah, like that's a pretty successful recipe if you really think about
Check
like.
it out. Now, 15. Tell me that fight doesn't make all the sense in the world because it's like, all right, if Till can't beat Park, he really is like wash, like done. And Park's a bad matchup for Till. Like Park's gonna grab a hold of him and put Till in the spot that makes Till quit.
I think that's a really fun fight.
I think it makes a lot of sense in the world. I think you could do like a feature prelim type of card placement with it.
Hell, I even think with Chris Curtis's boring ass, like the way his fight style, like he would struggle with Park because Park would be up on his face and he wouldn't like. I don't think he would get the edges enough to avoid the grappling.
You know what? I was gonna throw that name out there too. I believe he has a fight book. Let's see real quick. Let's see if it's on Tapology. Yeah, he's booked against Gastelum, who I believe is ranked right above him. So that's going to provide some clarity.
I mean, should Chris Curtis lose that, I would like a Jung Young Park Chris Curtis fight.
True that. And if Gastelum loses, he's probably cut, right? He's like 1-5. I mean, it's against dogs. That's a brutal. You hate to see it. There's a fan base there, but
I mean, yeah, it's so.
He's like 1-5, I think, in his last 6 or something.
And it's like, but it's like dogs, except for the very last loss.
Yeah, no, it's tough for Gastelum. It's tough. Let's keep it pushing here, man. Jun Young Park, rear naked choke, 4 minutes and 5 seconds in. Yeah, good on him. 3 in a row. I mean, heading in the right direction for sure. Hyun-Sung Park up next, taking on Seung-Guk Choi. Choi plus 175, Park minus 205. Another flyweight fight. So this is the first of the road to UFC matchups. So if those names don't sound familiar to you, you know you're not a casual. These guys were new to me as well. But like I said, I like how they did 3 divisions on the road to UFC shit. They did flyweight, bantamweight, and featherweight. I thought that was pretty cool. I like the choice of those divisions. As I said, I really do think flyweight needs life, and these type of feeder systems are designed to, pump talent into the division, like battle-tested, ready to go, top-end guys, no frauds. Like sometimes a guy gets a Contender Series win, shit happens to shake right for him that night, and he's not really at the caliber, but he gets in, and it takes us 3 or 4 fights to figure out that this guy's not a guy. I think this Road to UFC tournament style system kind of weeds that out too.
I agree, yeah, and you have to show up multiple times, so it can't just be a one-off showing. You know what I mean? And also,
you've proven you can make weight and all that type of secondary shit as well.
And it looked like they were doing it in arenas over there, from what I saw in their highlights.
I believe so.
So that kind of gives you the idea of like warming up in the back and like a big arena, doing the walk out to the ring there. Maybe not as many fans,
crowd.
But yeah, not as many. But
winning fans along the way too over there.
Sure, yeah, building your base. Like it's a good style to do this. It's honestly probably the best style. And then from some of the guys that lose on the flash KOs and stuff, keep an eye on them because maybe they continue to be successful and you can come back to them and that was just a bad showing that knocked them out. And then
they already had that relationship with the UFC,
right.
What I mean? Yeah. No, I think it's a great thing all the way around. Choi also trained by the Korean Zombie. I think he goes by Baby Zombie or Kid Zombie or some shit like that. So got that relationship there kind of next up in that camp.
So I also think that their fight format might be better and the best format for fights. Which is...
What do you mean? What's the format? I might have missed that.
So in these fights, they would have 3 rounds, and the fight could not end in a draw. So if it was a draw, they had to fight a 4th round. We didn't get any of those.
Ooh,
but there was
overtime in MMA.
Yeah, sudden death. It's sudden death 4th round.
I think it would work in 3-round fights. I think that'd be tough in a 5-round banger to try.
Oh, I don't think 5 rounds you do that. I think that's fucked up.
Yeah,
but I think that war, you know what I'm saying? Because think if you lose the first round 10-9, lose second round 10-9, then you 10-8 him in the third, and they're like sudden death 4th round. The guy that just got the 10-8's got to be feeling good.
On this card.
That's what I'm saying. So imagine if there was a sudden death in that fight.
No, I agree. That would be sick, especially with our football backgrounds. Like, it makes perfect sense to us. Like, football players are tired at the end of games, hurting at the end of games.
You don't want to run that extra quarter of time you have to play, but hey, we played 5 OTs.
Yeah,
it was tough.
You're talking to guys who played in a 5 overtime playoff game all on the line. So it's like, of course, we're in favor of that type of shit. It makes sense to us. But I understand it's not very traditional, kind of a hot take in the MMA world. But I'm kind of here for it. It makes a lot of sense to my brain. But, yeah, man, let's dive in because I thought rounds 1 and 2 were very close. Could have gone either way.
Super hard to score.
Not matter, and we get a 3rd round finish. But I am interested to see how you scored the first 2. How'd you score round 1?
So round 1, I had to Park. I thought that he was landing the more impactful shots, whereas Choi kind of had, I don't know, Choi had good moments, but I really liked Park in round 1 as far as just overall like damage. Now, granted, he wasn't fighting the smartest fight, but the leg kicks were kind of there too.
See, I gave it to Choi because you're right. I think overall, who had a better maybe overall round, probably maybe Park, maybe a little more active. However, Choi got the knockdown, and Choi was kind of marching forward. I liked his pressure. He got the knockdown.
That knockdown was worth a lot. I'll give you that. But I just felt like Park continued to win the round after that. Like, every time I would think Choi would get started, Park would come back and start to put together something again.
Quality versus quantity type of thing. That's why I wrote close. Could have gone either way.
Definitely close. Definitely close.
We demonstrated the 2 sides, the 2 arguments there. Not mad at it. Round 2, I thought was also very close. Choi, another knockdown at the start of the round. Almost a very similar round to score because Choi got the knockdown at the start of the round. Kind of, you could argue, proceeded to potentially lose the rest of the round, but Park never had any moments or any damage.
Exactly.
Equal to
Park never had, so I thought, the like super strong moments that, like, because he landed 2 or 3 big, I thought, really clean shots in the first round. He kind of struggled to find those, and Choi was answering with better combos in the second round as well. Like, Choi followed up his second round a little better, even though he probably lost the second half of the round. I thought he was kept it closer in that second half than in the first round, second half.
So it sounds like you went Choi round 2?
I did, yeah. I had it 19-19.
Okay, and I had it 2018, but like a couple coin tosses in there. So fair enough.
By the way, just to let you know, no judge scored this fight the same.
Yeah, it was one of those fights, right?
And no judge had your scorecard either.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. I'm out here on first base holding the catch.
And only one judge had mine. One judge actually disagreed with me and had first round Choi, second round Park. The other judge had first round Park, second round Choi, and then one judge had both rounds Park.
Ooh, both rounds of
Park. Both rounds Park's salty with the 2 knockdowns. Like, what are they worth at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. The 1 and 1 I'm not mad at. Ends up not mattering. Round 3, Park gets the sub, which is pretty interesting because the whole fight up to that point had kind of taken place on the feet. So sub kind of came out of left field.
Very strange. Very strange. But it was almost like he decided to go for it as well. I thought the game plan changed for Park in the 3rd round.
What it also speaks to, I don't know if you watched the Felder and Rogan episode the other day. So good.
I did.
Such a good episode.
I did. It was tremendous.
They were talking about how just these young kids, they come up doing everything. Like, they come up like, they don't come up doing Taekwondo. They come up doing MMA. And, like, this is a prime example. I mean, was their fight just to be well-rounded enough to bang it out on the feet for 2 rounds and then just decide, like, oh, I'm going to go for a sub now and then get it. Young bulls are high level.
Hey, the Bonfils kind of put that on notice for everyone, right? Because the older one had insane hands, and the younger one had insane grappling, and I assume they can each do both. Right, but it was weird to see him do opposites.
Poor Terrence McKinney. Poor Terrence McKinney. So brutal. So these young guys are the same way, man. So, I mean, young Sung Park, but Choi showed us a lot. Obviously, comes from a high-level camp. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Choi on a future season of Contender Series, or tough, or maybe just get a late-minute replacement in a flyweight division.
Choi's just got to put together better activity, man. He's just got to be a little more active. Because whenever he was active, I think he was finding success. I thought his like activity rate was just slightly too low.
For sure. But I'm just saying, it would not surprise me at all to see him again with the Korean Zombie connection and all that. Yeah. But good for Park. I mean, You could do Park Tyra, and I wouldn't hate it. I do think Tyra's maybe earned something a little bigger than that, but there would be a little something on that. Just
Yeah,
flyweight, contenders,
and Park's kind of
figuring
saucy
it
with
out.
it. He's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
active.
Well, so far when Tyra's been fighting, it's like, oh, he's so far ahead, like he's the
Right.
new wave. But Park is the new wave too. I don't think he would be like
That far
as
ahead skill
ahead.
set wise, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe
What
grappling, but he'd have to get it there.
For sure. And up next, we got more of these road to UFC guys. We got Rinya Nakamura out of Japan, 6-0 prospect, minus 475, big favorite. Taking on Toshiomi Kazama, another Japanese kid, 25 years old, plus 380.
Not
This
as big
this
an underdog as he should have been.
Yeah, this was the only fighter out of the three contender series road to UFC fights. This was probably the least competitive, as you could probably imagine by the odds.
Super least
Bantamweight,
competitive.
which this will be interesting because Nakamura, I mean, obviously you could argue the most impressive win, whatever, out of all the road to UFC, maybe the highest ceiling.
Did get a bonus. Forgot to say that.
But but going into the bantamweight division, going into the shark infested waters, you know what I mean? Just another bantamweight. So many.
Dude,
Like,
and Rinya Nakamura is very sick with it. Like, is an Olympic wrestler from Japan.
yeah,
And didn't
interesting,
use
right?
his wrestling really in this fight, if you noticed, because he got 2 knockdowns without wrestling.
In 33 seconds.
Yeah.
What? Like, how do you? When I saw, literally, so when I watched this fight, we watched the 2 knockdowns. I guess the 1 knockdown followed by the knockout. However
Yeah.
you want
Yeah,
to
however you want to
word
call
that.
that.
And I thought to myself, I was like, well, that seemed really fast. But then I like went back and because sometimes when you watch a fight, it's hard to tell how long it lasted. Like off eye test, watching it live, like. And I was like, oh, surely it couldn't have been that short because there was enough time for 2 knockdowns to happen. Like, and then whenever they announced it, 33 seconds, I was like, oh fuck,
You're
he
like,
did
oh,
that in 33 seconds. That's like you can call you can say minus 475. That's hard to do on a goddamn Bob dummy in the gym. You know what I'm
and
saying? Like that's hard to.
and to be even crazier, Kazama showed pretty good heart. Like, I thought he stayed in there through some shots I wouldn't have stayed in through.
Yeah. Oh man, it was gnarly. And then like 35, right? The classic meathead take. Oh, these small guys don't have the power. Blah blah blah. I mean, that left put him out cold. I mean, cold. Like I mean, what is that? I mean, is that not
I
power?
think
Is
I,
that
I
not
think
violence?
Nakamura
Like
cuts a lot of weight coming from the wrestling background. Like, I think he probably walks around 160, 165, 170.
that's what the top end guys do. So it's hard
Right.
to really like. I mean, that's just what it is. Yeah, like Sterling is like a middleweight, but like, uh,
Literally couldn't make welterweight on just off the bench.
so I mean, he spoke good English. I thought he was very marketable. I thought he did himself a lot of favors. I mean, so bantamweight's just so tough because even the ranked bantamweights have a hard time kind of breaking through and getting fights booked and all that. So bantamweight's so hard to predict forward. Like it's so easy to get high on Tyra and these flyweights because it's just not that depth, the depth. So it's like you can climb the ranks fast. Bantamweight, you may have to get 3 wins to get a top 15 shot. It makes it tough. And then even in the back end of the top 15, you got Jack Shore, Said Nurmagomedov, and Adrian Yanez.
Oh
Like
no, we're not
it's
there
so
yet. We're not there yet.
no. But I'm just saying we were there with the flyweights because there's not as many names to get.
Right. Is Frankie Edgar available for Nakamura? Is that a thing or?
No, that gravy train's over with.
Speaking of gravy,
But
what about Tony Gravely?
yeah, somebody like
You
that.
know, just like
Somebody
a
like
just
that.
like a standard UFC fight that like dude's tough, puts up a good.
Or like a Brian Kelleher type of level type of guy. I think he has a fight coming up, but you see what we're saying here. Same type of guy.
Yeah, just a guy that's going to get you more of a UFC test because obviously Toshiomi Kazama was not.
No, 33 seconds. So impressive. So definitely deserved the bonus. That was insane. It's marketable. Not too much to get into X's and O's wise, but I mean, very impressive. I guess you can't even call it a debut, but welcome to the lexicon and your first time being mentioned on the Beefy Boys breakdown. We'll keep it pushing. We got Yi Zha versus Jung Young Lee. Zhao out of China plus 195. Lee out of South Korea minus 230. Featherweight fight. Ooh, and they did lightweight for on the UFC too.
Lightweight, yeah.
I forgot it went all the way up. So 4 weight classes represented. Very
Or
interesting.
featherweight, lightweight. Yeah, I'm
Um,
sorry, featherweight and then lightweight at the end. Yes, sir.
yeah. So round one. This fight's going to be important to
Oh,
see
dude,
how we score.
I would love to hear how you score this. No judge scored this the same, and I thought I was crazy when I first scored it.
So I do agree with one of the judges. I'll let that out of the bag. But let's get to it. Round one, I had it 10-9 Z. It was a little snoozy. I'll admit that. He got the takedown, the clinch control. I don't think Lee did enough to really. Z did, or Yi did the most, but I think he did more than Lee.
I agree. I had the first round 10-9 to Yijia. And I've watched this fight twice because this one I literally thought I was crazy when I watched it the first time because I was like, there's no way that I'm this off like after I heard the scorecards, right? When it's all said and done. Because this is a split decision for the people at home that are wondering. But to not belabor the point, I thought his grappling in the first round was like almost clearly enough to beat Zhang Young Lee because I didn't think Lee did really that much damage. Now, granted, Zaw did not much damage, but he had so much control that I was like, well, I think it's 10-9 just based on like lack of anything from either guy minus a lot of control.
Exactly. Round two, you can kind of copy and paste, but actually sprinkle in a little more damage. I keep saying Z. Yi Zha got 2 takedowns, but this round he had a lot more ground and pound and a lot more damage. And also, he got hosed. He up kicked him while he was on a grounded opponent. No point deduction. This should have been 10-8 with the point deduction for Yi Zha. I still have it as 10-9 because I can't make up point deductions that didn't exist, but he got hosed.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it was Mark Smith that didn't take it. Mark Smith loves taking points.
Yeah, we usually like Mark Smith too.
Yeah, and he usually does right by the in my considerations. But here's the crazy thing, man, is that I had it for Zha as well. Like you said, same grappling control, if not a little more even, by getting the 2 takedowns. Yeah. I know he let him back up, or that Lee got back to his feet, I should say. But Zha was able to get him back down, do more damage. And I thought, like, wasn't wearing out. It wasn't like it was lazy control. Now, all that being said, the judge that scored the first round to Lee scores the second round to Zha. So he has it 19-19. That's David Letheby. I'm okay with that. Don't hate that. I don't like it as much as the next scorecard, which is Jacob Montalvo, who's a ref, who's also a judge. Just everyone keep that in mind at home. He's the only one out of the 3 that's also a ref. Has it 2-0 for Zha, like we do.
That's what I have, yeah.
Me too, yeah. We both have it Yijia up 2-0. And then Junichiro Kamijo has it first round to Zha, second round to Lee. That makes no sense.
That's like literally like the opposite of like...
It's backwards of anything I can think of.
Yes, that's the worst one.
So that one's crazy and sucks. Anyway, getting to the third round, I thought the third round was another round of Yijia controlling the fight and sprinkling in damage.
You can argue it was Zha's best round of the fight.
I thought it was. I thought it was, and only one judge scored it for him.
Wow. He had 3 takedowns. He had a decent amount of control time, and he landed some solid elbows. Like
he did eat 2 or 3 big shots. He ate 2 or 3 big shots that round, I will say. There was one uppercut he ate that was like, oh, that one hurt. But I thought he was doing a good job of making the glow, or of like sliding off of straight punches, and they were kind of glancing shots a lot of the time. Like I thought Lee was getting... I
just thought he did more work.
Yeah, I thought Lee was getting too much credit for the work he was putting in.
And it wasn't like... I guess my point is it's not like Zha had got no damage off. Like it was all snoozy control. Like he was getting damage off.
Right. And so we each have it 30-27, it sounds like.
Yes.
So does Jacob Montalvo.
Yes.
2 of these judges have it 29-28, Zhang Young Lee. He is the winner by a split decision. And I mean, Josh's face showed it. Like when they read the scorecards and they said 30-27 him, he was like, all right. They said 29-28 Lee, and he like looked like, wait, what? Like how the fuck? And then they read it the winner for Lee, and he was like, what? All right, and just like took it, like good on him, but like he got robbed. This is a robbery.
No, it was really bad.
Like, roll out the hill. This is a robbery.
Yeah, I will, because of especially how they arrived at that conclusion. Like giving Lee the second round, but not the first is just dumb. And then I guess they gave him the third round.
And then giving him not giving him the third. Or giving Lee the third, I mean. Not giving Ja the third. I don't understand. How do you not give him 2 and 3?
The only one you can give Lee is 1, and I still didn't. Like, it's bad. So, and apparently Lee did fight this fight with a torn ACL, so that's impressive. He's a dog, happy for him. It just sucks that it's at the cost of Yi Ja. That being said, do I think we're like missing out on anything by not having Yi Ja in the UFC featherweight division? I hate to say it, probably not.
No,
probably not. So on that front,
he'll be a good guy for the UFC PI Asia for like training camps and stuff. Like that's a great guy to bring in because he gives you a really tough, grindy look.
Yeah, no, good point. He reminds me of Li Jingliang style wise.
Yes, absolutely. Kind of that grindy wrestler.
Chinese grinder wrestler.
Right, that'll ground and pound and throw some strikes on the feet.
We'll keep it pushing to the lightweight version of the Road to the UFC fights. This is the last fight on the prelims. We got, I think, our first UFC fighter, Anshul Jubli, plus 105, 6-foot-tall lightweight, good size on him, coming in undefeated at 6-0. Taking on Jacob Serghei, who was the first Indonesian guy to get a shot at the UFC contract. So 2 kind of breakthrough cultures, I believe.
Jubli, there's the first Indian fighter was KB Buller. But he's been cut since.
And I do believe he might have been Canadian based. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I only know because I have his autograph on that poster. He's one.
Put it this way: this guy's Indian as shit.
Yeah, Anshul Jubli.
But yeah, taking over. He was the underdog against Serghei, minus 125, so lightweight. Round 1, I gave to Jubli. He got some takedown control, some damage. Serghei couldn't just really keep the fight where he wanted it. Obviously, more of a striker, and just couldn't kind of get Jubli off and couldn't keep the fight at his range, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the first round, I got the takedown about a minute into that first round, and really it was pretty even on the feet until that point. You could argue Serghei had the more dangerous power punches, so that, I mean, that was kind of keeping Jubli on his back foot. But that was obviously kind of game plan because as soon as he engaged the grappling, he went for it and made it work.
And he was the much bigger man in there.
Oh, yeah. And then he was on top for
Granted, it's a tournament format, so they've both been having to stay close to weight, but he's a big lightweight.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, being able to, or having to keep your weight there, like almost like the Ultimate Fighter. But then, I mean, controls the round under the last 30 seconds. Serghei gets up, has a nice last 5 or 6 seconds, but really that's nothing in comparison to the round. You know what I mean? So I had it 10-9
exactly.
Jubli. I thought it was a pretty good showing for him. And honestly, as the dog, like that's absolutely the way you want to open up the fight.
Exactly. Yeah, getting the fight into your world. Then round 2, more of Jubli keeping the fight in his realm, in his world, his path to success, his road to victory, which was the grappling. And he ends up getting off some big ground and pound to finish it off 3 minutes and 44 seconds into the second round. If I'm not mistaken, this is a little bit of a late stoppage. I'm trying to think if this is the fight I'm thinking
I
of.
thought whenever he was dropping elbows on him from 3/4 back mount, like the first time, because it happens the second time and that's when they stop it.
Yeah.
But the first time it happened, it was like, oh, he ate 3 of those clean. Like, you probably need to step in, because they were elbows from the top. Like, imagine gravity plus your elbow. That's a heavy shot.
It was big shots. Serghei took a lot of damage. I guess credit to the ref if you want to be glass half full, giving him every chance to compete like a warrior. But shout to I always forget the Instagram account, CTE Warriors.
Yeah, CTE Warriors, yes sir.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, man. Anshul Jubli, I mean, dominant performance, good win. It's interesting though to like project forward. Because Serghei's a small lightweight. He's 5'8".
Right.
And he's not even like Volk 5'8".
He's Brad Tavares.
Yeah, very good
Or not Brad Tavares, Brad Riddell.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. I think Serghei probably is more of a featherweight sized guy. Not that that's the end all be all, but whenever you do just so heavily, and he was a striker. Just saying, it would be interesting to see Jubilee matched up against a decent sized like American wrestler, or even like I mean, Thiago Moises is probably too much for a debut, but like a guy like that, it'll be interesting to see if he can like has an alternative path to victory on a guy that he can't just kind of big dog and manhandle. I don't know. I'm not trying to glass half empty him here. Great performance, but I don't know. That was kind of my takeaway.
No, yeah, I agree with you entirely, man. Is like Jubilee's a pretty big guy. I would like to see him against other big guys at this point, because like he pretty much won this fight by being the bigger man, if that makes sense.
And all lightweights are big. Like look, the back end of lightweight is Grant Dawson, big wrestler. Drew Dober, big wrestler. Renato Moicano, big, kind of well-rounded fighter, but he's big as fuck too.
Money Moicano.
Ismagulov's like the smallest guy, and he's a motherfucker too. Like none of these guys are small. Dan Hooker's 6'1". You get all the Jalen Turner's like 6'4". RDA might be like one of like, and RDA's fought at welterweight. Sarukian might be the smallest lightweight. Real talk, Gamrot, Faziev, Chandler, Dariush Gagey, all these guys are massive.
Yeah, they're
all
huge.
These guys are welterweight. All of them. Poirier, Oliveira probably is the next smallest.
Hell,
guy.
even guys like Michael Johnson are big as hell outside of camp.
Saruki and Oliveira may be the smallest guys in the division, and they're fucking brick shit houses too.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great point.
So that's what I'm saying. It's hard to get super excited on Jubilee when he fought essentially a featherweight striker and he just wrestled him.
I would say Patty's in that conversation, but he's just fat. Like he's not big like that. He's just fat.
Yeah, exactly. Because Patty's 5'9", 5'10"?
5'10".
Huge.
5'10", like he should make that weight. Like he used to fight at 145. That already tells you like he's not a huge.
Exactly.
He's not a huge lightweight. Big lightweight.
All
not
the
huge.
lightweights are big.
Poirier's fucking massive. Makshev's massive.
Lightweight's kind of a fake division. Like it's just like, what do they call that in boxing? Like a light welterweight. Like really like combine the like it's just like it's just small. Just welterweights that have gnarly cuts, dude. Like it's a huge. Like those guys are huge. But yeah, I mean that wraps up the prelim section, man. This road to UFC, like I said, got some new life in some of these divisions. I'm probably most excited about the bantamweight and the flyweight guy. Just keeping it a buck, but I mean I don't know. Time will tell. It's up to these guys to write that story.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think big takeaway for me is like I love the format of Road to UFC. Like I think that's a cool thing. They could bring that to America, no problem. I think it's going to sell easy. And then beyond that, next biggest point, Lorisenko did really great, and I think tertiary point, do not watch Power Slap. That shit is malicious.
It's just pointless. Like I said, I'm not even like trying to take some like a moral stance about it. It's just like you might as well watch guys play foosball or you know what I mean, like ultimate frisbee or just some other pointless bullshit thing. Like that's like it's fine if people want to do it. Like I'm real big on like freedom and agency and whatever. Make your own choice if you want to get slapped for $2,000, whatever. But it's like if you're watching people do that, like seriously, do some push-ups, fucking go jerk off.
Yeah, you got way better stuff you could be doing.
Like, you got better shit you could be doing. Like seriously, you go smoke one, Jesus. But all right, man, we'll be right back here in a minute with this main card. I'm really looking forward to this main card.
Yeah, yes, sir. 5 fights, but honestly, I think more to talk about than this